Welcome back to another episode of the Strive for 25 podcast. And today I've got a friend of mine, Marcus Ridgeway, on from South Carolina. And we're going to be talking about the real estate industry and specifically wholesaling and finding deals and why real estate is still powerful in terms of building legacy wealth. But Marcus, thank you for joining us today and tell us a little bit about who you are.
First and foremost, Joe, thank you very much for having me. I'm very excited to be here today. I'm just a humble guy originally from Kentucky. I live in South Carolina now. And I've loved real estate from when I was young. I got into it in 2019 and have been officially in 2019, I should say, and have been going hard at it ever since.
Gotcha. So what are some of the things that you're involved with right now? And also, where can people find you?
So, we do a few different things. Obviously, real estate investing. So we're always looking for leads and deals. So if you're in the Southeast, Sun Belt, South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky, Florida, Georgia, Texas, love Texas. And, you have some leads, you have some deals, Alabama too, excuse me, I almost forgot. And you have some deals, whether it's single family, whether it's multifamily, commercial, we even are looking into businesses right now. So, if you got any of those, definitely hit us up. You can go to, our Instagram is probably the easiest way to find us. And that's G_properties. And you can just send us a message and we can communicate starting that way. We also have a mentorship company, Invest Launch, where we teach people who are looking to get into investing from, at whatever stage, how to do it. We also, we partner with our capital partners. We have a virtual assistant company we partner with and those types of things so that we can give you the other elements of real estate investing to really be able to build your real estate business. So, and those are the two of the main things that we're doing right now. And, whatever other opportunities come our way.
Gotcha. Let's take a second and talk about, because there's just so much to talk about. You guys are doing a lot of different things, right? Just to kind of give an example of something that you're doing right now, and then kind of bring it back to some of the mentorship and kind of a process of somebody trying to get into the game right now. What are some of the projects or things that you've been either working on recently or working on right now that you may be able to share a little bit about?
So one of my favorite things is that we just worked with one of our mentees, to be able to get a wholesale deal under contract. And then we also wholesaled to another mentee who's looking to get in the fix and flip game. So it was great that, within our entire community, we were able to start a deal from start to finish and close it. And then we also, helped him in securing capital and things like that. So I'm sure we'll help him along this process as well, getting that flip completed. He's actually working with his sister. So that's one thing. Another thing that we're doing right now is we're under contract to buy a business that's a dog kennel that also comes with a real estate property that we're looking to short-term, mid-term lease, maybe host some events there. So we're looking at, the different opportunities that are there as well. So those are two of the main things that we kind of have going on at the moment.
Cool. From a strategy standpoint, at this point in the markets, in your kind of a journey in real estate, are you buy and hold, fix and flip, a blend of a lot of different things? Like, what's your philosophy about real estate and kind of what do you like to do? What have you built your platform or portfolio around?
So for us, it's really is everything, right? We're kind of a hodgepodge, but that's only because our theory when it comes to real estate is that the deal is done based off the seller and what the seller needs, right? So a lot of people, I think, when they get into real estate, you get in with a exit strategy in mind, which is great when you're getting started, right? Start in a niche, get yourself some traction, get yourself some momentum. However, for us, it's, we know how to orchestrate and put different types of deals together. So for us, does somebody have a lead, right, or a potential deal? What is the seller needing out of the deal, right? What is the outcome that they're looking for? And maybe how can we structure a deal around making that happen? For instance, the dog kennel that we were just looking at, that we're looking at and under contract for, as an older couple who are looking to retire, move up into the mountains, right, where it's better scenery and do more traveling, right? And they're in their 80s. So they have certain outcomes that they're looking for. And we were able to put some things together to make that work. If you take the wholesale transaction we were a part of, that seller, I believe, had gotten started and looking to flip that property, but quickly became upside down due to capital costs and needed to sell quickly. right? So they had a very different outcome that they were needing. So that's how we look at things, So if it comes in and it's very capital intensive, then we're probably going to wholesale or flip it, right? We don't want to come in with a lot of capital. If we don't have to come in with a lot, then a lot of times we'll look to hold the property. It just depends on the deal and the seller and what that looks like.
Got it. So the different strategies and what the seller needs, right? And kind of that first one where the dog kennel owner, they're going to be, wanting to get out and retire and go to the mountains. Can we take a little bit of a second to drill down on that one and dig deeper on that one? So from the buyer's perspective, what were they able to do to meet the seller's needs that, may be different or not traditional, or how did that all work out in terms of the buyer coming to the seller's needs and meeting them in the middle or whatnot?
Well, part of the thing with this particular deal is that a lot of the transactions were not automated, right? There were still a lot of things on paper, a lot of things were cash and check, right? The business that goes along with it was not going to be easy to process, right? So another group, another company coming in, maybe they're going to want things a little more streamlined for their process. For us, we understood that the seller was older. They didn't want to go through all of that and get all of that together. So we met them where they were, right? That was number one. Number two is that the property, was free and clear. They had owned it for decades. So we were able to negotiate a price that was really good, and met what their needs were as far as the money they thought they needed to be able to, survive and move forward and move on, but also a seller finance portion on the back end so that they can make a little bit of additional money as well, monthly. So it worked out for them. I think it works out for us. In that end, we also structured that they would stay on for 9 months after close to help us as far as consulting and management of the business as well. So they were able to get their hands out of the deal and still, work in it a little bit as they move their way into the mountains. And like I said, they don't have to go through all the hassle and the work of getting all their documentation and everything in order. When it comes to that, we were able to work things out because of that seller finance option as well. So I think that, in the end, it's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely what it sounds like, right? I mean, because you go through a normal lending process with the bank or whatnot. I mean, can you kind of just illustrate a little bit of, if that buyer goes to the seller and says, hey, I want to do a traditional type of purchase at X price, X amount down, X amount of loan amount, what's different about that versus the way that you structured it with the seller carrying some financing?
So the first answer I guess I would give is nothing because that's how we came at first, right? Our first LOI was just, hey, we're going to buy it, but it was a lower price. Because if you're just looking for me to cash you out, even if I'm going to get financing for it, I'm probably going to come in and need some more equity at the top. They had a number in mind and they wanted their number. So for us, we were then able to continue negotiations. So I think to answer your question more directly is really the amount of negotiating that you're willing to do, right? So if you're coming in traditionally, the numbers are what's driving the conversation. This is what the property is valued at. These are where the numbers are, right? All of those things. So those numbers are pretty strict when you go to the lender, right? They're going to tell you that you're going to get 70%, right? Maybe 75, depending on credit score or what have you. So all those numbers are pretty rigid when it comes to that. However, if you're willing to negotiate and you're willing to have some back and forth and, add some terms in here or there, then a lot of times you can get somebody what it is that they're looking for. And you can, find a way to be able to make that work so that it still works for you, right? So we're paying more than what we originally wanted to pay for the property when we came in and we were just going to be able to get the financing. However, that works out for us because we're still going to be using financing for a portion of the purchase and some private money. However, again, there's a seller finance portion to it too. So they're getting in the end the number that they're looking for, and it's structured in a way where it works for their lives.
No, yeah, that makes total sense. From a, kind of that Cody Sanchez mindset of, buy boring businesses and things like that and getting with no money down, I guess from that perspective, right? I mean, if you go in with traditional financing, on a deal, maybe not this deal specifically, but if you're getting traditional financing, I mean, probably more of a stringent, documentation heavy, rigid process versus this is where it's, hey, you're really working with the seller to find the right terms, the right, you know, leverage you can pull. And then you mentioned private financing. And this sounds like it's a little bit of a hybrid, maybe. So you've got the property and then you also have the business that are merged together. So, like, how would you describe the financing in terms of what type? Just a private money, hard money? Like, what kind of lender can do this kind of a deal?
So to be honest with you, right now we're actually looking at a few different things. The funny thing is that I woke up this morning to an email where we were using all private capital at one point, and they've decided that they can't continue forward with the deal. The fortunate thing for us is that we were already still exploring other options because until the money's on the table, we try to still make sure that we have those options just in case for these reasons. So for this one is actually going to be a commercial loan for a portion of it, right? I don't know what the percentages are off the top of my head at the moment. However, there will also be a private money component. Now, that private money is also going to be buying in to the business, so they're going to get a percentage of the deal, right? So they're buying in for the cash flow that they're going to be able to receive. And then once we do refinance into maybe some small business loans or something within the next 5 years or so, then obviously they can cash out at that point. And then, like I said, the seller finance on the back. So like I said, the biggest thing is being able to negotiate, because I think you can normally negotiate a deal as long as you're understanding what everybody's looking to get. And you can do, traditional financing for a portion of it and still do, find other ways to be able to get the deal work and the numbers to work on the back end.
So if they were just doing traditional financing, it sounds like they'd be bringing a lot more money to the table than with the way this is projected to net out.
Well, to be honest with you, if I was doing traditional financing, definitely I'll be bringing more money to the table. But again, that's probably still going to be private money anyway. So it works out very similarly to what it would be. It's just that now the total purchase price is more than what it would have been.
Okay. So because if I'm out there listening and I say, hey, you know what, like maybe I want to dig deeper on, a business that's out there that's got aging entrepreneurs that maybe you can, acquire something along the way, kind of giving that framework of what to look for, what to expect. And, on my side of things from the residential lending side, the biggest limiting factors that I see for people being able to get into a deal or buy the next house is typically the capital or the money available for down payment and closing cost. So kind of on that same lane of questioning, at the end of the day, these types of deals, what type of down payment would be projected? 25% down is kind of my go-to, just easy number. Is it higher or lower than that, do you think?
Well, obviously, as you know, some of that's going to depend on your credit score, right? Some of that's going to depend on your history, right? So do you have a history that you can point to successfully completing these types of deals, right? Like I know a lot of people who are listening may not have that history, but what I would also tell you is that when you're going through lending, you don't have to have the history. You don't have to have the credit. You don't have to have the money. You just have to have somebody who has each of those components. And now you have a team and you can come together and you can close a deal like that, right? So when we're looking at it, we're looking at those three components. And I think anybody can do that. So if I'm looking to find something like this, I'm literally looking for businesses that have existed. We actually are in negotiations right now with somebody who owns 2 car washes, right, in North Carolina. So, they've had to put some money into the business to get it up to, kind of 2023 standards, probably closer to 2019 standards for some of the things that they did. But, somebody who is a car wash you go to all the time, it's been around for a while and you see them doing recent improvements. But they're probably doing improvements because they're getting ready to sell, right? Maybe even have a business that who've, had the same prices for a while or something, and now they're starting to increase prices. Well, they may be starting to increase prices because they're looking to sell. Also, businesses that, you or establishments that you go to where maybe it's starting to be a little more rundown than it used to be, right? Where the owner may be a little tired or getting older or whatever it is. You have all this stuff around you. You're just not looking with the eyes that are going to point out the opportunity. But the opportunities are all around you. You literally just have to be looking for it.
Okay. So you said something there a second ago. Don't have to have the credit, don't have to have the history, don't have to have the money. but then you can still get a deal done.
Yeah.
Can you just say that again? How does that work? How can I
Well, you got to be
possibly
able to
make
put
a
them all
deal
together,
work?
right? You got to be able to put all those three components together, right? So somebody has the money, but they don't have the time, the energy, or want to spend it to go out here and source deals and have the conversation and do the negotiations and everything else, right? Somebody else wants to get in, but they don't have the money. Neither do they have the time or energy or anything else, but they do have a really good credit score, right? And then somebody else out there has the time and energy and has done the deals, right? But they're willing to do more deals, especially if you can come along with somebody who has capital and has a credit score, right, to be able to get it through. Because you're not looking for seasoned funds or that type of thing in this. The whoever is lending you, right, whether it's a traditional source, whether it's a hedge fund or something, some type of private capital from that side of thing, or whether it's cousin Joe or Uncle Bob or Aunt Susie or whoever it is, right? If you can come and you can bring those people together and you come to somebody like myself, right? Then, I mean, literally, that's what happened, to be honest with you, with the one that we're working on. That deal was brought to me by somebody else, right? So I worked with him to be able to him and his wife to be able to make the deal happen. And he didn't come in with any of those three things, but I have a history, right, of being able to do deals and get deals done. I know where to be able to go get the capital, right? Whether it's the private capital, whether it's the institutional capital, whatever it is, right? And then whether it's myself, whether it's him, or whether it's someone else, maybe, we have somebody in our mentorship who is just getting started, but they've got a really good credit score and they were looking to get some capital or what have you. Maybe they want to be a part of the deal because they're just looking for cash flow and they're looking for buy and hold properties or something like that anyway, right? So whatever it is, if you can be the one to be able to get those things together, again, and you know how to negotiate a deal, you know how to look at the numbers, that type of thing, you can get anything done. Anybody who has the attitude that you're going to go out there, you're going to fail, you're going to try, you're going to fail some more, you're going to try some more, right? Eventually, that compounding is going to add to something. So whatever you do, just as long as you have that mentality, I think all those other resources are out there for you to find.
So, I mean, how are there deals to find out there? I mean, the prices just keep going up and rates keep going up. There's no inventory. I mean, there's no deals out there, right?
So if you're simply looking for traditional sources, here's the way I'll put it, right? I am from Kentucky originally. Kentucky is the home place of bourbon. However, some people may not know that there are counties in Kentucky that you cannot go to the store or to a liquor store or what have you to be able to actually purchase bourbon that is made in the county in which you live. However, you do probably know somebody who has some, again, Uncle Jimmy or whomever it is, where you can go, purchase that, right? And I look at this market the same way I look at my childhood growing up, knowing those things. It's not a question of whether it exists or not. We know that it exists. The question is it easily accessible or not, right? And in this marketplace, things just aren't easily accessible, right? We have DoorDash, we have Uber Eats, we have all these great things that bring things right to our doorstep. And I think sometimes we want the same thing to happen with other pieces of life. And when you're building, a life for yourself, a legacy for yourself, and especially, when you're building wealth for yourself, those things aren't just going to show up at your doorstep, especially in hard economic times, right? There's a point where you can go to the MLS, right? In 2019, when I got started, you could go to the MLS. It was still lower inventory than, what say 2004, right? Inventory was still low in comparison in 2019. However, there was more there and you could go make offers and you can do all kinds of things to try to get yourself started. Now is not the case. Now you got to go out there and find them. One of my favorite things is, like I've told you, you want to be looking for the opportunities, and to look for that, drive around your neighborhood, visit local businesses around your neighborhood, right? Talk to people, because if you can have those conversations and if you can have your eye out, something's going to jump out at you. I've got a friend in Alabama who is trying to work a deal right now because he and his wife were out walking and just happened to see a house where he's like, man, there's no way anybody lives here. can, find the number and everything for me. And, I did it. Obviously, it's a friend. So now he's trying to have the negotiation. But that's not a deal that was out there, right? That's one that he found. I really just think, I don't care where you are in America, those things are out there if you're willing to go out there and have the conversations with people and put in the effort.
Kind of a different question. So kind of into your mentorship program, Event Invest Launch, what's the demographic of people that are coming in to learn about this? Is it, a certain age range that's typical? Is it a variety of people that are coming in to learn about this stuff?
So right now, I'll tell you the biggest demographic are women. Our biggest demographic are women who, if you pay attention to the numbers, when you look at a lot of tech layoffs or, kind of white collar layoffs that happened at the beginning of the year, disproportionately a large number of them were women and, those types of services. So, what we're seeing is, people who suffered those layoffs, and that's a very wide age range, right? I've even, have some people who are ex-military as well that are looking for a way to add additional income that they can control, right? I think right now in the world we live in, there's just a lot of people who are afraid of what's going on with the stock market. Are we in a bubble? Are things going to happen? Right, as you mentioned with real estate, what's going to happen. But in the end, everybody knows that they don't make any more land. So at the very least there is going to be value in the land, and that's what I'm finding. And it's just that there's a lot of people out there who, even though they have the qualifications to be able to go out here and do it, sometimes you need just a little bit of the structure that shows you how to run and operate a business. And sometimes, you really just need somebody to help you with your mindset, right? Because 9 times out of 10, if you ask me, that's where most of us don't succeed, is because we don't have a mindset that is going to help us move towards success. Whatever it is, it just doesn't seem to be innate in all of us.
So
Doesn't mean it's not in all of us. Let me make sure I make that clear. It's in all of us. I truly believe that. It just may not be innate in all of us for whatever reason.
and so it's just a matter of trying to pull it out
Yep.
and keep it out there and keep focusing on that
And
part of it.
right, you got to keep pulling. The problem is it's a tissue box that doesn't end, right? You got to just keep pulling every day. You got to keep blowing your nose. Some days it's harder than others, but that's the way to get there.
Illustrate that, because I know where you're going with that. But let's say you've got somebody who's 29 years old. It doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter the age, but someone that's, middle of their, early part of their life. And, they listen to this episode, or they come talk to you and they reach out to you and you guys have a conversation, and it's like, go beat the streets, drive around, find some opportunities, find some places, businesses, houses that, may be an opportunity to dig deeper on and maybe find a deal. And so they go do that, right? And then a month goes by, 2 months goes by, 6 months goes by, and maybe you've had some conversations, but nothing's worked out yet. And you're still kind of back to square one. Can you explain at that point in time where this stuff kind of comes into play?
So, first thing I'm going to tell you is a mantra that I say to myself all the time. And I started it last year when I started doing 75 hard. Every day is day one, right? That's why I said the tissue box. You got to keep pulling, right? Every day is day one. You're going to build on successes, but a lot of times you're going to build on missteps more than you're going to build on successes, at least until you're able to get some momentum behind yourself. But if you're you're 6 months in and you haven't seen anything from it, stop, go back and follow up with everybody that you talked to begin with. Because I tell our people all the time within our business, there is a fortune in the follow-up. More often than not, you're looking for a unicorn. You're looking for somebody who's ready to go right now, right? You were the right person that called them at the right time, and you're going to get the deal. That more often than not, again, you've got to be willing to negotiate, and to be able to negotiate takes sales skills, and to be able to work in sales, you've got to know that it takes normally average around 12 times to talk to somebody before you can close on a sale, right? If you're really skillful, maybe you can get away with like 6, 7, right? If you're really good, but on average, you're somewhere between, 10 and 14, right? So I think that's one of the biggest things to remember too, is maybe if you're 6 months in, go back and look at everybody you haven't talked to at least 3 to 4 times, right? Because your deal is somewhere in there. wherever it is, you've got a deal there.
So if, let's say you got somebody that's got a regular job making a decent wage and they want to get into this on the side. Is there enough time out there in the day to go work on this stuff after hours or before hours or during the day? Do you have anybody that's doing this stuff with an actual job? Day
Oh
job?
yeah, definitely. I have somebody who, is, let's see, so they're a full-time father, a barber, and coach football, right? So, and they still literally the person that we closed the wholesale deal with, right? Like that's who he is. So he does this on the side technically, right? Now he has a little more time than maybe others because he is a barber and can set his own schedule. But we also have people who own and operate a trucking company, right? So she does it on the side. I have a gentleman in Texas who works full time, but in the evening, he's just getting started. So he's getting himself together. We've helped him get his LC set up and talk to some lenders so he knows where he needs to be, talk to a credit repair specialist, right? Because that's the direction he wants to go in. So he's getting himself prepared to be able to do that. But after that, whatever time you have, you can make it work. If you just work weekends, right, you can make it work. The question is, are you going to be willing to do that? And again, it's a mindset thing. Can you carve out 2 hours a day, just 2 hours a day, whether it's 8 to 10 in the morning, right? Or whether it's 6 to 8 at night, whatever it is, wherever you are, to be able to do this business. Better yet, can you carve out any of that time, a couple days a week where you can get 4 hours in, right? And can you schedule 4 to 6 hours on the weekend to commit to doing it? Because if you can be successful, right? It's just being able to make that commitment because life's going to happen. The kids are going to get sick, right? A loved one, something may happen to, right? You don't know what, every single day you wake up, you have no idea what life is going to bring to you, right? And it's these things that end up a lot of times taking the back seat to the other things that life is going to bring you because you're going to go to your 9 to 5, right? Whatever that time frame is, you're going to do that because that's how you're sustaining who you are and your family and your lifestyle. But if you want the better, that's a commitment and a sacrifice you've got to make. One of the things I would tell you, which is actually one of the things I did, is write down what you're willing to sacrifice, right? What is it in your day? What is it that takes time away from your day that you know you're willing to sacrifice? And write it down. Know it, right? But before that, put your goal. Put your goal there. So that way you know, right? I want to accomplish X. To get there, I'm willing to give up Y, right? And then commit to that. And I think if you can make that commitment, again, you can be successful. But I'm not going to say that, it's going to happen within a certain period of time because there are gurus out there who did their first deal within 2 months. Then there are gurus who will tell you it took them 2 years. And this was in much better economic times, right? So I say that to say that it doesn't matter who, except for it matters how much. And that's how much you're going to put into it.
Kind of light at the end of the tunnel, the goal, the vision. When you put all this work in, you start to get a couple deals done and you start building your portfolio. I mean, what's the light at the end of the tunnel? What does this shape up to be for somebody in terms of what's the benefit?
Well, I mean, I think you have two different tunnels you can go down, right? You can build a portfolio, like you said, or you can build a business. I don't think that it's really any different than being a real estate agent, right? You can, just be a real estate agent and you can build up a clientele or a portfolio or what have you, or you can build an entire agency. It's totally up to you. And that's one of the things that I love about real estate from top to bottom, no matter what you're doing, right? You're a mortgage broker. You can do the same thing from a mortgage side of things, right? You can have a consistent clientele. You can do all these things. You can live a really good life, or you can take on the additional stress and you can try to run an entire business, right? For the additional output that gives you. And I think with real estate investing, it's the same thing. If you don't have the money, go out and get started by wholesaling, right? Earn some money that way, earn some active capital. Turn some of that maybe into, like, if you can wholesale 4 deals on the fourth one, right? See if you can take some of the money that you did earn using wholesale as an exit strategy and see if you can't get into a flip, right? Or if you want to build your portfolio, see if you can't get the fourth one and take that money and make it a buy and hold, right? But you want to, every 3 to 4 deals, see how you can leverage up from there. And then you really just go from there. Again, if you want to build a portfolio, you can learn additional exit strategies, right? Because other exit strategies are going to allow you to do a combination deal like I did with the business. Or again, you can, people like myself with Invest Launch can help you put an entire business together so that you have VAs cold calling leads, so that you have warm leads coming in, so that you have a system, so that if you do want to do a flip or whatever it is, or even maybe a hold or whatever it is, or cash out refinance, we've got the partnerships that you need to be able to make that happen, right? So it's really that question is, do you want your life to be several different buy and holds that are just going to pay you passive income and cash flow so that you can just kind of live your lifestyle? Or are you looking to leverage up from there and really build a legacy and really start to look at building what I call transitional wealth, right? I think generational wealth literally takes generations. So I use the term transitional wealth because you're trying to transition your family from where you started into having the opportunity for your next generations to compound that. Whether they will or won't, you have no idea. That's why Anderson Cooper, you don't even relate him to Vanderbilt in that way.
So if someone is out there, hey, I've got a great job making 6 figures, got a 401k, man, I'm good. What's your response to that?
How long? Right? Because I think there were a lot of people who said that who were let go at the beginning of the year. And you're earning that now, but do you have assets? Right. And I would tell anybody, just go get assets. I don't care if they're in real estate or if it's the stock market or it's gold or whatever it is, own assets, right? If you got a good 401k, if you're earning good money, how are you flipping that into assets? Because those assets are going to make sure that you're taken care of when you're not earning that anymore, right? There's a lot of people I think who are, the millennial generation who are 40 and will be turning 40, moving into their 40s very soon. And that is kind of the peak earning stage of any given generation is your 40s and 50s, right? So if you're moving into that stage and you have one of those jobs and you have some of that income, start turning that income into assets, right? You can invest with somebody who's already investing, right? Because you may not have the information, you can invest with somebody who's already investing because you may not have the time or want to gather the information to be able to do it yourself, right? Or you can also do it yourself. As a matter of fact, a gentleman that I'm negotiating a deal with in Texas, he started and was a Wall Street broker, right? And making really good money. And then the next thing you know, he goes into the insurance industry, right? And again, making really good money, but he ended up in the real estate industry because he understood what the assets are going to do for him. And so, now that's his main thing. He's selling off some of them because he's moving to Florida and he likes keeping his assets around him. But, I think that it just is a smart thing to own an asset, especially an asset that is going to appreciate over time, is going to pay you passive income, which is non-taxable, and provide you additional ways for you to keep money that you're earning.
Yeah, I literally got off the phone with somebody about a half hour before we jumped on this call. And it was a conversation about, hey, you know what? Like I absolutely want to get into real estate. I've got this 401k and they're, I think, early 30s. So they got a good 401k. It's 6 figures in 401k. And they're like, I feel like comfortable taking about 35k out of it. I think it was like 175k total 401k. So taking out a small percentage of it, do a loan on it, use it to buy a rental property, and buy in the 130 range, 130,000 range. And I was getting ready to just do the numbers and compare, okay, well, what if you keep 35k in your 401k, and let's just say, that money grows at whatever 10% for however many years, 20 years, 30 years, whatever it is. And then, or that single family rental, do the math on that in terms of the growth of the asset, paying the principal down, the rents, all that stuff. And then doing the math on it. I haven't done it yet. Something that's on my to-do list to do today. But because you and I are both real estate guys, I think we both know the answer, which one's going to have a better output, right?
Know the answer.
So I'll probably put something out there on social media, Instagram or whatever about it. But I mean, I think, a lot of the data that I look at, it's like, if you take out the top 5% or top 1% or whatever the top how many percent are, where you have a lot of business owners and people that have gone public or CEOs of companies or whatever, the majority of regular people that build massive amounts of wealth or just general wealth, the millionaires out there, the 60% of that wealth is built on real estate, something like that. So it's a tool for the everyday person to get at. And you call it.
I mean, for me, I think the American dream to some degree is literally that, right? So go out, find yourself a career, whatever it is, earn a decent income, and then take that income and invest it in real estate. Because then that investment in real estate, like you said, is actually going to build you wealth long term, right? Whether it is obviously the way that real estate continues to increase in value, whether it is the tax savings that real estate is able to provide you, whether it is depreciation, whatever it is, because again, it is earning potential, right? So if you're maximizing your earning potential, that's great. However, maximize your money's earning potential. And I just don't think that a 401k in a lot of cases is maximizing your money's earning potential, especially when you're having to pay more money to be able to manage that or have it managed.
I just saw a video on 401ks. I can't remember if it was Tony Robbins or somebody other major name was talking about how, just until like the last like 5 years, did the actual 401k entities release what they are actually charging in expenses, not just the actual funds, but the actual companies that, put it all together for you. It's like 1% or 3% or whatever. Like the difference of 2% over 30 years on whatever dollar amount was like massive, hundreds of thousands of dollars of what they're charging and just taking your money out because they just have your money. Like it's bonkers. I mean, I've got a 401k and I always have, and I probably still will, but like, that's not enough for me. Like,
but a 401k was never designed as a retirement account, though, Joe. It was never designed to be a retirement account. It was designed to be the Robin to the Batman of, and then my mind goes blank, pensions. So you were still supposed to have your pension fund, and the 401k was supposed to be additive to it, not simply your retirement strategy in a whole. So, in the end, the person who benefits the least in a lot of cases is the person who's putting the money in, right? Because even your company who's matching is getting tax benefits from matching you, right? So there's really no loss for them. The companies who are managing it are making massive fees, right? And if something were to happen, they don't necessarily lose if something happens to the stock market, right? So there's just, for me, a lot of reason to have your money placed somewhere where you have more control of it.
I still can't get over this whole thing that you're talking about is like, if I don't have credit or not enough of it or not enough money or not enough, experience or credit, and I go find a deal that I can go win, I can find a way to win by just finding a deal. I can go to somebody like yourself who has this experience and connections and access to capital and lending and all those tools that you built up over time to be able to build these relationships and to have that experience, that if I can just go find the right deal, I can still find a way to win. Like that's just bonkers.
So it's exciting. You watched The Big Short? Did you watch The Big Short, the movie?
Oh yeah.
With Brad Pitt? Okay. So the character Brad Pitt plays, right? He was all of that rolled into one. Those guys found an opportunity, right? Now they had the small fund that they were working, but in comparison to how much money they made, it was nothing, right? They leveraged an opportunity into a huge payday, but they weren't the ones who had the connections or the capability of making it happen. They had two things. They had the opportunity, they found the opportunity, and they had the grit to push through to seeing the opportunity succeed. But they weren't the ones who had the capital, the know-how, or any of the connections to be able to make it work. He did. They just happened to know him.
I like that analogy. That's on point. So kind of getting back to the Southeast, right? The states that you mentioned and a couple of the different examples that we talked about. So because you live in South Carolina, right? And we're talking about North Carolina and some surrounding states. Can we just go through a couple different more examples of like if I'm in Chattanooga or if I'm in Huntsville or if I'm in Jacksonville, Florida or whatever, what would be an example of something that would be an opportunity to look out for and why? Is a certain area up and coming or not up and coming? Like why one area versus a different area and kind of that just general Southeast?
So the general answer is demographics, right? You had a lot of people move to what's referred to as the Sun Belt, which is are mostly southeastern states. You can include Arizona and some other states in that as well. But you just had a lot of people moving to the South. Now, for me, I also look at economically over the course of the next 20 to 30 years, whatever it is, that I think that the South is going to be a power economically because of our trading with Mexico and possible other South American countries and our reshoring a lot of our jobs, right? Especially when it comes from a factory standpoint. So to me, when you look at those two things, then you're looking at a area that has not been as economically progressive as northern or western states. You're looking at a lot of states where prices have not risen as high as some of these other states that you can mention that people are moving from, whether it's California, New York, or different places like that, right? Obviously, we know a lot of people are moving from California. So when you put all of that into play, then there's just a lot of deals to be had, and you can do it everywhere, right? People are looking to build. Builders are building in the South. So if you can find land that's in a viable area, an up and coming area, then that's a deal, right? There are neighborhoods that were, built for the baby boom, right? So 70s, 80s, houses that were built, 90s even, right? Those houses need to be remodeled because right now we can't build fast enough to cover the number of houses that we've been building under capacity over the course of the last decade, right? We're almost 750,000 houses per year under capacity or what we need over the last decade plus as far as building. So we are going to need a lot of these houses to be able to be remodeled. We're going to need a lot of flipping, right? To be able to have the housing necessary to house all the people that we have coming in. And just taking a guess here, but we as a country have always opened up our borders when we've been in a growth cycle. And if that's the case and we open up our borders, however that looks, we're going to need housing for people who are coming in via immigration as well. And again, we just aren't building fast enough. I don't know that we can build fast enough because the millennium generation is a fairly large generation as well of workers. So again, it just seems that all of the combinations of economic factors keep pointing to one location. And as my lady's mother always says, everybody doesn't tell the same lie.
Like that. So if you could pick two cities, all the areas in this kind of general region, to find a good opportunity, and not like your typical examples, but just like maybe like a hidden gem area that could be up and coming or an opportunity to find some value.
So one area I'm going to tell you is Savannah, Georgia. It's right on the coast, right? It's got a lot of history. However, it also is ripe for expansion based on everything else that's going on right now in the area that it is, right? Charleston is growing, Charlotte is growing, Atlanta is growing, and then other cities around that are growing. However, you don't hear Savannah mentioned as much as you do some of those other cities. And that's one of those cities I think that has all the other elements that all the other cities do, plus it's on the coast. So I think it's right. Another city I think is ready to go is probably either one. You can pick one or the other, but Birmingham, Alabama, I think Alabama as a state is on the rise. But if you're looking Birmingham, looking Huntsville, right, those are areas that I believe, especially if you don't have a lot of capital, you can get houses for a good amount, right? If you're looking at wholesaling and you're looking at cash offers or you're looking at flipping and looking at cash offers, I think, that's definitely, again, Birmingham or Huntsville are areas that are going to be really good to be able to buy low. And if you're buy and hold as well, you can get in for really cheap. And in the next 5 to 10 years, I think you're going to see, it more than double, probably triple plus for some of those areas. Again, we'll see what happens. But, I think the Gulf Coast, even of Georgia, Alabama, are places that in 5 years, watch out for those places because I think things may start to turn around economically within that time frame. I think there's some building that will start going on there because I think we'll need to build some industrial stuff for, again, our agreements with Mexico and some of the South American countries that we're talking to right now.
Yeah, I noticed you didn't say Mississippi.
No, Mississippi could be one. If I'm sitting here and I miss out on Mississippi, that's one of those, I don't necessarily feel so bad about missing out on Mississippi. I think there's just a lot more to happen from an infrastructure standpoint
Yeah.
for that state and, some other things maybe before it could be economically viable enough for me to start pointing out places in Mississippi. I think Arkansas, outside of the Fayetteville region, is probably another one of those states that is similar. And I think Louisiana as a whole as well, although we'll see what happens on the Gulf of Louisiana at some point again. It's just those three are states that aren't necessarily seeing the same influx of people that a lot of the other states are.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I only bring up Mississippi kind of from a sports angle, just because Jackson State had a good run going. There was some investment going on there with Deion Sanders there, Hall of Famer, personality, and then obviously he, took some really high money to go to Colorado. And it's like, you know what, if he just stayed there, from just a standpoint of like building something for the long term, that legacy of what he could have done for that community down there, it could have been pretty cool to see, historical Black college do some pretty cool things and actually make an impact on the national level. Like if he just stayed there, like I believe in 10 years they could have competed for a championship. But anyway, that's just a completely random thought.
So we can dive into that later off podcast because I would be interested to hear more of your thoughts there that from just a football standpoint. But for Mississippi as a whole, no, Mississippi needs a Walmart. Like the reason I say the Fayetteville area of Arkansas is because Walmart, right? Like they spent tons of money to economically develop that area. I just don't think that, I think Mississippi's issue is that somebody has to headquarter hopefully a couple of, like, they need a matter of fact, they need an Elon Musk. They need like the Boring Company to set up their headquarters there and whatever else is next that he's doing to set up there. They need either that or they need, kind of what Alabama had with NASA, right? Like there's infrastructure being built there for a positive reason. I just don't see how a college or something of that kind of mid-sized level could do enough to turn some of those areas around in and of itself.
I mean, it would be like a blank slate, right? Like there's prices have gone up on so many different things, obviously real estate. So it's like if somebody had a 20-year vision, which is a long time, it's like, yeah, you could, if you got billions of dollars, just sitting around, you could invest in like get stuff for super cheap. But anyway, that's for a different conversation. So Marcus, thank you again for sharing some of your insights. And you may not have wanted to share all of those tips and insights, but we definitely appreciate it. And again, it just gets me excited to hear that, hey, you know what, if I can go find a really good deal out there, I don't have all the background history, that there are some tools and resources to be able to help somebody, find a way to win and make some money. So if somebody finds a deal or if they have questions, what's the best way to get a hold of you and where can they find you?
Okay, so the way I would tell you to do it is if you have a deal, right? M_G_properties is us on Instagram. So if you have a deal or something like that and you're wanting to work with us from an investment standpoint that way, definitely reach out to us there. However, if you're interested in getting started in real estate investing at whatever level, again, if you're interested in wholesaling, if you're interested in flipping, buy and hold, if you're interested in commercial, whatever it is that you're interested in, go to investlaunch.net. Go to our services page. You'll be able to book a discovery call with us. We'll sit down for about 30 minutes and talk to you about what it is you're looking to accomplish, make sure that the fit works for you. And if you just want investment content, Invest Launch Me on Instagram is where you can find us as well. So, you'll be able to get some free content. We, drop video content and go live every now and then as well. Or, you can also find us on Facebook at Invest Launch as well, if you want to shoot us a message. So a few different places you can find us, a few different ways. We're on the socials.
It's awesome. It's awesome. Well, Marcus, we'll be talking very soon, but thanks again for making time, and thanks again. Talk soon.
Appreciate you, Joe.
All right. See ya.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Strive for 25 podcast.